When you think of a doll with a big head, big eyes, and a smaller body, there's likely two things that come to mind: Blythe and Pullip. In fact, for me, these dolls have been kind of interchangeable, or one and the same. From an outsider perspective, they might be like siblings, or even dupes of each other. And over the last 2 decades, these two dolls would sort of coexist in the same spaces as competitors, but not having one that seemed like it was really taking the lead. That is, until the last 2 years. A shift has happened, and one of the two has unexpectedly rose in popularity. So today, I'm going to be looking into the history of Pullip dolls and investigating why it has lost the battle of the big-eyed doll. Thankfully for this, I have a friend who can help us out, so let's take it away. Pullip dolls were designed and created by the artist Mango Park. Park is the creator and CEO of the company Art Gratias Artis, which means art for art's sake, and is the company responsible for all of the original Pullip designs that would be released. In an interview with Doll Magazine, she describes her background as having studied craftwork, industrial arts, metal, visual design, as well as illustration in Korea, as well as interior display and design in France. So she has a pretty strong arts background, and would end up designing the first Pullip doll in 2003. In that same interview, Park actually describes one of the major original inspirations for the dolls being online avatars. So she says, when the online community was popularized in Korea, a pretty avatar that expresses its own character also became very popular. I wanted to deliver a possibility of that individual sense through a figure with a big face and slight body, while keeping characteristics from the small image made on a computer by a few pixels, which I find incredibly interesting. So what she's likely referring to are the pixel dolls that were popular online through the late 90s and 2000s, especially those used on Korean social media platforms like Say Club. So the aesthetic in general had very much the vibes of a Pullip doll, kind of a big head, skinny but adult proportioned body, and large anime-like eyes. And while I fully believe that that was likely a large inspiration for the dolls and is like a really interesting thing to design a doll around, we have to also note the release of Blythe dolls. So while Blythe dolls were originally designed by Alison Katzman in the 70s, they were actually finding modern success in Japan in the 2000s. The company Takara started producing Neo Blythes in Japan in 2001. So it's very possible that their success was also a bit of an inspiration for the large head, small body dolls. Both of these lines of dolls would also use their eyes in big ways. With Blythe dolls, they have multiple eye chips that you can rotate between, which are looking in different directions, allowing for the doll to have different eye colors and to be able to kind of express itself in different ways. Pullip, on the other hand, has switches on the backs of their head, which allow you to open and close the doll's eyes, as well as have them look around. The bodies of the dolls are also quite different, with Pullip dolls having a lot of articulation, allowing for a lot of movement and posing, and Blythe dolls having kind of more Barbie-like rubber bendable limbs, but not the same sort of articulation as Pullip. Another inspiration for our Pullip dolls was actually likely from Volks. If you watched my ball-jointed doll video, you might remember me talking about how the No-No head sculpt kind of changed the game within Volks for their ball-jointed dolls. And that sculpt was likely a pretty strong inspiration for Pullip's head sculpts, considering they do look pretty similar. These dolls were originally produced and released through the Korean company Cheonseng Cheonha, which I'm so sorry if I've said that terribly, and that's often actually been incorrectly credited as the name of the artist who created them, but as far as I understand, that is a company. Pullip would really start growing and have a lot more success once they signed on to working with a Japanese distributor, June Planning. So I believe they signed on in 2005, though I feel a little unsure because on their own history website, they're like, we signed on in 2005, but then June Planning has had Pullip dolls on their website for sale earlier than that. But it's possible those were just the dolls that were being released specifically in Korea, sold through their website, and then they would of course be like remaking the packaging and distributing them on their own once they did officially sign on as the distributor. maybe the history. Some background on June Planning. They were a manufacturing and distribution company that was founded on April 1st, 1985. And they worked with a pretty vast number of companies, including Disney and Sony and Sanrio. So they were working with some major brands. But with distributors in place and the dolls designed, the world was ready for the first wave of pull-up dolls. Cool wind going through verdure. I want to pedaling along in the sunshine. Feel like so. The first wave consisted of 10 dolls, all original designs by AGA, which were released through 2003. The first ever Pullip doll released is named Wind. She had 2 versions, one that came with a bike and one without, and had a very hip Y2K style fashion, including the very thin eyebrows I am trying to emulate. While I'm not going to be able to cover every single doll released over the course of this video, the overall vibe of this first wave is very cute and kind of alt-fashion looks. Moon is a personal favorite of mine, reminds me a lot of Ichigo from Tokyo Mew Mew, and you might also notice I have Noir standing here right behind me. Though this isn't actually one of the original release dolls, we'll talk more about her specifically later on. Pull-up dolls would actually have 4 different styles of bodies over the course of their release, and part of the reason why is each had their own kind of unique quirks, which people did or did not love. So the first body, which was used during this first wave of dolls, had visible screws, which people didn't love, and also had issues with its neck being really fragile. So the weight of the doll's head, especially if they had long hair, could sometimes cause their necks to break, which is very dramatic. These bodies would also deal with issues like the plastic of their legs splitting. The body for these dolls was actually originally designed by another company called Marmot, and they produced different anime figures and dolls. From my impression, it kind of sounds like this body was originally designed for kind of those anime figures, and then the Pullip team kind of took Pullip's head and just stuck it on top of it, which of course didn't work perfectly, and there was some room for improvement. At this time, the dolls would also have rooted hair, so similar to how like a Barbie or Bratz works, where they have one solid headpiece, but the hair is kind of like injected into the head of the doll itself, rather than wigs, which Pullip would eventually switch to. This wave would also be our introduction to Pullip as a character herself. So much like Barbie, Pullip has her own identity. She is a 17-year-old Korean girl who lives in Italy. In school, she plays in a big band, she's in the drama club, and her hobbies include scuba diving, shopping, hosting parties, photography, to just name a few. So every Pullip doll is technically this Pullip character, though there's not any like canon reason behind her different outfit or style changes. But what would end up being a consistent piece of branding is that there's a tagline that goes with each of the dolls, and they would include a phrase that kind of describes the feeling the doll is supposed to give you. And all of those phrases would end with feel like so. So for example, the Libretto doll's line is, "Pajama party tonight. Let's knock out everyone with special costume. Feel like so." So it's just supposed to like give you the feeling of, oh, I'm going to have a lot of fun at the pajama party and I'm like dressed up for it. And I always thought that this was kind of interesting, them having their own kind of like branding. Feel like so. A Wonderland-like dream. I am chasing the rabbit and wandering into there. Feel like so. Pullip would continue strong with its second wave in 2004. This year would have around 20 dolls released, with some highlights being this very adorable Anne of Green Gables dolls, Mitzi, because I'm just like obsessed with this cat girl look, Venus, who is an American pageant queen icon, and Scarlita or Scarlita, who is a nun, all very cute. Wave 2 would bring us a brand new body type as well, which once again had its own quirks. One of the major issues this time around was they decided to use a softer, more plush type of plastic for the torsos of the dolls. But that plastic didn't react well with the plastic the rest of the body was built of, and that would cause a chemical reaction at the neck and arms and other parts of the doll, which would cause the other parts of the plastic to kind of melt. Science is wild, guys. I can't believe these are issues that we have with dolls. Like, she's just melting. normal. It's fine. During this time, the dolls would also transition from having rooted hair to having wigs that were, I believe, glued onto the heads of the dolls, but could be removed and kind of more easily changed out for if you did want to customize your doll's look. This year, we would also get a new character in the Pullip cinematic universe named Namu. Namu was introduced as Pullip's first boyfriend, with him being a fashion school student who's also in the fencing club and is sensitive and calm. 7 Namu dolls would be released in 2004, with many of their designs intended to match with a specific Pullip doll as well. Along with the Anne of Green Gables doll, a Fantastic Alice in Wonderland inspired, as well as a Red Riding Hood inspired doll would be released. These are original designs, but are obviously inspired by other works of media. So we don't have collaborations yet, but we do have AGA taking inspiration from other works, which is totally fine. I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing. That's fine. The day spent with everyone is 100% more fun than alone. So we can be together all my life. Feel like so. Wave 3, or 2005, is a very unfortunate time in the Pullip timeline. Our star has arisen. 16 dolls would be released over this year, and some of the highlights from this time include Cosmic Mercu and Jupy, like Mercury and Jupiter, who are so cute. They remind me of the like space pop star brats. I love them. There's Chica, who reminds me a lot of the unreleased Teen Trends doll, like similar vibes. And Paja, the dinosaur, is so cute. Kisses. However, there are some lowlights, I would say. One of them includes a Sacagawea doll, which is the first tan skin doll from the line release, so it's always great to see, a little bit of diversity. I don't super love the doll just because she is kind of a caricature of Native American cultures and people. And my feelings always with this, as well as outfits from any type of cultural group, is if that group isn't involved in the design process, it's obviously not an ideal situation, even if it was done with good intent. This doll would actually have a matching Namu doll with it, and this would be the final Namu doll released as well. And again, I don't super love it. It is okay if you feel differently, like especially if you're Indigenous American. It's obviously not my place to speak on how other people should feel about it, but that isn't my favorite thing, and that is something that the Pullip line in general does a lot. They do highlight kind of fashions and styles that are obviously very heavily inspired by different cultures, but I think sometimes it feels a bit better and sometimes it feels a bit worse. However, a doll that I speak fairly confidently on saying that it was a very bad idea is Barissa, who was a lady spy doll who is wearing what looks a lot like a German officer uniform from World War II. From what I understand, they had planned the doll, announced it, and got incredibly negative feedback from people who were like, that's not okay. And the brand did end up deciding to cancel the release of the doll out of respect for the 60th anniversary of the Holocaust. There are a lot of possible reasons why a Korean designer that was working with a Japanese company might have seen this uniform and not have had the same strong negative visceral reaction towards it that many of us do feel. However, I don't think that I'm going to be able to try and explain why that is in any sort of helpful way. I think it's inappropriate. I think it shouldn't have been done. It's obviously not ideal that they made it in the first place. I don't know how many people were involved in the design process, if it's one person, if it's 20 people, but there should have been someone in that room saying no. The cancellation of that doll would cause a break in the release schedule, and during that break, the dolls would switch from body 2 to the third body type. Now, this body, of course, would have its own issues as well, with its wrist being pretty fragile, and this body, in fact, not actually having been originally designed for Pullip dolls. These bodies were actually designed for a different short-lived line of dolls by June Planning that were named Hiesta. One other little part of 2005 would be the release of the Little Pullips line. So these were a line of around 5-inch tall dolls, and these would either be small versions of the original Pullip designs or some original designs that were created specifically for them. And there would also be smaller versions of other characters in the Pullip cinematic universe as well. This line would ebb and flow with releases, with the last of them coming out in 2013. I am baking cookies and making tea for my master. When I am hungry, I snitch a little. Feel like so. Over the next few years, Pullip would continue producing at least one doll a month, and 2006 would bring an important change to the world of pull-ups. Collaborations. November of that year would bring a pretty big collaboration in the world of dolls and anime, when Pullip would do an official collaboration with Rosen Maiden. If you haven't heard of it, Rosen Maiden was a manga, then anime, based around a series of dolls who all compete in battles with each other, basically to become the top doll. It's an anime that I enjoyed quite a bit when I was younger. I actually was going to do a full video breakdown on every single doll that was ever released for Rosen Maiden, and then I tried rewatching the anime, and I couldn't quite get myself into it enough to want to do that project. The main character is a bit of a dweeb. However, the anime and manga were successful when they first came out, and this sort of collaboration is kind of a dream, especially for fans of the series. The dolls ended up being beautifully detailed, and while they were kind of still collector items, they weren't crazy expensive. So while they would be a splurge item, they were still an affordable splurge item for fans of the series. And the series is about dolls, so making dolls of them just makes sense. Angelic layer. Do you hear me? They're also very cute, and I would like to have them all one day, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe that would be too many dolls fighting over each other. Some other notable collabs from this time period include Prunella, who is a collaboration between Pullip and the designer H. Nato. They also did Hello Kitty and My Melody, Evangelion dolls, and even a Dorothy doll. And Dorothy's counterparts, the Lion, Tin Man, and Scarecrow, would be played by her new boyfriend. Taeyong would officially come to be in March of 2006. He is a Libra who is studying music composition in Italy. His hobbies include taking pictures and videos of himself, and he's cool and passionate. So, he's basically me. I like this little detective Shade doll. He's very cute. And they would also do an Edward Scissorhands release. And similar to before, they would often do kind of pairing releases matching outfits between Pullip and Taeyong. Taeyong would also bring his little sister along with him. Dal is a middle schooler who likes to draw and play tennis. She's also obsessed with her older brother and thus feels competitive with Pullip, which is like my least favorite trope ever. I recently watched Utena, and there's a lot of that. Dal is only 10 inches tall compared to Pullip's 12 inches, so they do have a bit of a size difference, and she also has very young-looking, chubby cheeks. To round out our cast for now, we also have Dal's best friend Bayul, who is only 9 inches tall and has even chubbier cheeks than Dal. Like, girl, you're a little squirrel. Bayul is the first canonically Italian character of the cast. The rest are all Korean, and she loves wearing dresses trimmed with lace. The dolls would continue their steady production until... In the darkness where noir can feel comfortable, only white moon can shine her. Feel like so. June Planning went bankrupt. According to an article from Anime News Network, the company was 3.2 billion yen in debt and had worse sales than planned in 2003 and 2008, which led the Japanese branch of the company to go bankrupt in 2009. Thankfully, in March of 2009, the company Groove Inc. would come to be and would take on that role of distributor for the doll line from here on out. 2009 would lead to the final body change for Pullip dolls. Body Type 4. This is the most sturdy of the four, and there's now actually more Pullip dolls released with this body than the other three combined. So they've been using it for quite a while now. From 2009 to 2014, over 130 dolls would be released. These included some major collaborations with things such as Black Butler, Vocaloid, DC, Disney, Paramount, Madoka Magica, Sailor Moon, Rosa Versailles, and Go Sick, just to name a few. Fashion brands such as Angelic Pretty, Baby the Starshine Bright, Alice and the Pirates, Innocent World, and Tokidoki also created a number of different collaboration dolls as well. But at this time, still about half of the dolls released were original designs by AGA. And side tangent, I was so into Go Sick when it first came out, but they never finished translating the light novels, and I think this is when Tokyopop went out of business in the United States, so I never got to finish reading them, but I want the Go Sick Pullip so bad, and I want to read the novels. And I loved Gosick. I loved my little weird mystery-solving child. Anyways, February of 2011 would introduce us to another character in the world of Pullip, Isil, who's Pullip's younger brother. Isil is 11 inches tall, so slightly shorter than Pullip, and is our first character to canonically live in the United States, going to a private high school in San Francisco. Another fun thing that was done during this era is the regeneration line. So in 2012, Pullip re-released some dolls from their original 2 waves with updated bodies. But that is how I have this Noir here. She is part of the regeneration line, so she is a re-release of one of those older designs. And an interesting thing about Noir and a couple of other of these designs is they actually have shiny faces. Interestingly enough, the first wave and a half about of Pullip dolls all had shiny faces, similar to Blythe dolls, but about halfway through wave 2, they decided to switch to matte faces. So most of our Pullip dolls that we see today do have those matte faces, but Noir here is one of those who originally had a shiny face, and when they created the regeneration line, though they were using an updated body and an updated face mold, they did decide to keep her face shiny, which is really neat. I'm impressed by how delightfully detailed they are. Her outfit is so cool. In 2013, our final character of the world of Pullip would come to be Yeolum. Yeolum is actually Pullip's daughter from the future. Only 2 of these dolls would ever be released, and they use a more simplified body, which is actually slightly more similar to Blythe dolls, and were unable to blink or close their eyes like other Pullip dolls. From what I can tell, this time period was kind of the height of the Pullip brand. They had some huge collaborations with companies like DC and Disney, as well as some really big Lolita fashion brands. So it really goes to show that a lot of other companies were seeing Pullip as a creator of high quality dolls that they wanted to collaborate with. By 2015, over 90% of Pullip dolls sold were sold to international customers. So the line had really reached global success at this point. Woo woo, seemed to be in time somehow. The third Rosen maiden, Sui Suiseki, come to see, feel like so. In 2015, 2022, 23, and 24, every single Pullip doll released would be a collaboration doll. From the years of 2015 through 2024, the line would release around 153 dolls, with only 36 of those being original designs from AGA, so only around 23%. Pullips had sort of just become models for other brands' clothing or other characters, which in some ways is really fun, but in other ways is a bit sad, especially considering that AGA had made a lot of really cool and beautiful original designs. That being said, it probably doesn't help that the company would also sometimes get flack for using materials like real feathers on designs. For example, this one that they then had to go and change because people didn't really like that. And the pricing structure of dolls also being at times very interesting, with some original designs going for up to $400. That's a lot of money. And while those collaborations are all fun and good, the challenging thing with them when it comes to our Pullip dolls is that these designs aren't really being made for Pullip collectors. They're being made for people who are fans of whatever brand or thing is collaborating with them. So the main core of Pullip fans aren't really going to be buying them unless they do happen to enjoy whatever anime or thing the collaboration is with. Otherwise, you're probably not going to be buying them or trying to buy every single release. So while Pullip was probably getting sales from fans, it was from kind of a different group of fans than they had been previously appealing to and building within their own community. While 19 dolls were released in 2023, it sounds like only about 3 were released in 2024. So there was a major slowing down of releases from the brand. So far in 2025 this year, there's been a big emphasis on a new line called Timeless Treasures. These are redesigns of previous Pullip original designs for new fans to enjoy. which I think is a fun concept. I'm a little bummed they aren't like brand new designs, but I do think it's smart to kind of do a bit of a re-release of your older stuff that you know is going to do well, especially because, as Groove states on its website, due to rising costs in raw materials and logistics in recent years, we're facing challenges in offering these items at their original prices. However, we have worked tirelessly to provide them at a price that remains as accessible as possible for our fans. In addition to these re-releases, we also have exciting new releases planned for 2025. Of course, this was all like pre-tariff talk in the US, and while I'm sure the United States is only like a chunk of the audience for the brand, it might also affect it in some ways. So it really sounds like post-pandemic things have not been ideal for the company, and it's definitely struggling. And so this Timeless Treasures is probably an attempt for them to kind of try and reconnect with that core Pullip fan base outside of all of those collaborations that they had been doing. So with dark red rose and jet black darkness, I'm out for your heart and blood. I want all of your love. Feel like so. One major part of the Pullip doll community, which I haven't really talked about so far, is customizing. Much like with any line of dolls, there's a community focused all around taking doll designs and changing them, either the face up, the hair, the outfit, to make something that you personally want. But the one challenge of that, of course, with Pullips is that they're not cheap. The original line of dolls retailed for $65, which doesn't include shipping. With inflation, that would be around $100 today. And these dolls would, of course, increase with price over the years with inflation, but also collaboration dolls would tend to be more expensive than AGA originals, who would also release some at times very pricey limited editions of dolls. So if you wanted to make your own doll or customize a Pullip doll, you would have to invest a fair amount of money into it. Unlike ball-jointed dolls, which you could buy a blank face version of, you would be buying a complete doll with outfit, wig, hair, eyes that you would be going in and making changes to. Some people in the community would split up parts of dolls, so they would buy it and then one person would get the outfit, another person would get the body, but it's still not a cheap line of dolls to customize. Over the years though, AGA and Groove did seem to recognize that there was this core part of the Pullip fandom and released a couple of different things to kind of help support other people's creativity. The first of these comes in 2012 with the My Select Pullip dolls. So these were basic versions of older releases of Pullip dolls that wouldn't come with an outfit. They were basically just wearing a towel. So the idea was you could then dress and customize them. These dolls released for $65 rather than the $100 to $130 that most of the full outfit versions of the dolls were going for at the time. Then in 2013, they took it one step further with the Make It Own sets, also referred to as Mio sets. These were kits that basically just came with a totally blank doll that you could then customize. They also would release accessories and other things so you could purchase directly from Pullip to customize your doll instead of making them yourselves or buying them from a different company. And these kits were very popular. They were only 3,800 yen, so around $40 versus again the $100 to $130 that the complete Pullips were selling for. These kits did really well. At this time, they were only released in one skin color, but they did also some of the other characters or sizes of dolls within Pullip as them as well. There would be a number of kind of re-releases or restocks of this line until 2017, where we would have another re-release and even a release of a new skin color. So they released a mocha or more tan skin color version of these. But that sounds like it might have been the last time there was kind of a really big restock of them. It sounds like there was a lot of like ebbing and flowing with when stock would be available, or maybe even that the line was originally intended to be discontinued in 2018. And where I found kind of most of that information from is actually from the Reddit account of the supposed owner of a popular US Pullip retailer website, who has said a lot of stuff about their experience with selling with Pullip. So, for example, that Mango Park aka AGA, owns the trademark but hasn't wanted Mios being made at all the past several years. That's why I had to be discreet about restocks, only cryptically referencing them in PS posts. Now that she has her crafting dolls, she views Mios as even more of a threat. So Groove backed out of my last order for naturals, of course. They didn't admit it till it was already early June. I don't know when or even if Groove will make more kits. Like, hello, I'm waving $50,000 right in front of your face if you make me these. And they could instantly pocket their markup without even having to sit on the inventory. Logistics movement is my specialty. They're not serving anything with me. They've been using me as their personal bank to fund production for the past 3 years, but a high percent of the releases were just not popular since everything is a flipping collab. I eventually had to put my foot down on that because I was having trouble selling these newer dolls, many with insanely newer prices. Which is not good. We have to take all of this, of course, with a grain of salt, because, like, we're not hearing these conversations personally, but the idea that Park doesn't like people creating custom dolls with the Mio kits, they have a newer version I'll talk about in just a bit, but it's both understandable, but also kind of troubling. Like, you want to protect your copyright in your artwork, and obviously they care a lot about the designs that they've created from the dolls, but it's also really sad considering just how huge custom dolls are in general. Like, people love creating them, and taking away access to that is a bit of a bummer. They've also said some other pretty negative things about working with Groove and AGA and the financial situations of the companies, which of course I can't speak on or verify, but it's not good if true. It's pretty bad. And so part of the reason for some of this trouble with those Mio kits in the modern age, it sounds like, might come from the crafting dolls that Pullip has released. So regardless of how Park felt about the Mio dolls, they would release these crafting dolls. These kits are more like the My Style dolls, where they are just simple dolls with a towel, but they do have a face up and hair. And they actually are using the Yumiloom bodies from 2013. So really simple, not a lot of articulation, and smaller, and these are selling for $65 and do not seem to be very popular choices. People like Pullips because of the articulation, and they like the Mio kits because it's really a blank slate to build off of, which obviously have also been sold for less than $65 in the past. So all of these things combined are just part of the reason why I think Pullip is losing the battle of the big-eyed dolls. So am I kind of making this battle up? Yes. People aren't necessarily pitting Blythes and Pullips against each other, but the two dolls do look similar and have similar traits. And if we are going to compare the popularity of Blythes versus Pullips, it really seems like Blythes are pulling ahead and rising to the top. Or really, it's more kind of has remained at the top. At least comparing the Google search trends between the two, Blythe has always been a little ahead of Pullip, excluding around 2014-2016 at the height of Pullip's popularity. But if you look at 2024-2025, Blythes are popping off in a way that Pullip couldn't dream of. And why is this? Customs. While customizing dolls has basically been a thing forever, a trend that really grew in 2024 and actually kind of broke out of just the doll collector sphere is the Mini-Me Blythe doll. So artists would take a Blythe doll and customize her to match with its future owner. Now, this has actually been a thing for a really long time. In fact, Mini-Me contests have been held at BlytheCons in the past, where owners will customize or try and buy Blythe dolls that look similar to them. But TikTok has really been a huge factor in having these customs reach outside of kind of the regular doll collector world. A prime example of this comes in the form of Morella's Dollhouse, a TikTok creator whose custom Mini-Me dolls have gained millions of views on the platform. And even celebrities have taken part in this trend. So, for example, musician and TikToker Alison Ponthier actually made her own doll, and actresses Courtney Eaton and Samantha Henry have even bought custom Blythes that were created based off of their Yellow Jacket characters from the artist's Your Favorite Sister, who coincidentally also made me one. Everyone say hello to Mini Mary. She's in a cowgirl outfit right now. Don't worry about it. Just wait, transition. So I actually had the really neat opportunity to get to go and see them work on my mini-me doll in person, which was such a cool experience. Your Favorite Sister is ran by couple Sophie and Madeline, and they specialize in these mini-me or portrait dolls, which are customized either based off of like photos that you sent in or really can be changed to look however you specifically want. So based off a certain character or celebrity, or in my case, me. I swear this isn't so vain as I have her in like a complete matching outfit to me. So basically I just sent them a bunch of photos that I liked of myself and they created her based off of that. So they actually hand carved details in her face and like adjusted the sculpting. They do a custom face up of the face based off of like the makeup or style that you like. So they gave her my little like winged eyeliner. I can't live without it. And while I was there, they even let me pick out a bunch of different stickers to put on her eyelids. So I picked some strawberries and bows and little stars and one cat specifically for Muska. I was like, I gotta have a little Muska one. And now she's sleeping. So they did a lot of their like classic designs for the eyes. They hand draw all these designs. So she also has these pink ones I fucking love. She also has these like swirl. This is me editing video. If you've ever been like, what does Mary look like when she's editing a video? It is actually this. But these are also something that you can customize through them if you want like a specific color. And they hand draw all them. These ones are little bunnies. I see you with my Miffy eyes. And then also little blue eyes. I also got to pick out like the charms that they put on the end of her pull strings. So on the back of Blythe's heads, they have 2 strings. One is to close the eyes, one is to reopen them. It's how their like eye mechanism works. And so they make these custom beaded strings that have charms at the end of them. And for mine, I kind of accidentally ended up picking 2 Saturn ones. Saturn's my favorite planet. This is such a like random story, but back in the day, I worked at my university's dining hall, and when I got my name tag, they were just making the name tags by creating little labels from a label maker and like sticking them on a name tag. And they put 2 Saturns next to my name just for fun. Just like no specific reason. I didn't ask for it. The person making it just did it as like a way to be cute. And I've just like ever since had a strong affinity for Saturn because of that. And when I saw them, I was like, oh, those are kind of cute. Little spacey Mary. I gotta get that. So that's why she has those little charms on hers. That's why I picked them. But they had a lot of different ones to pick from. I almost felt overwhelmed by options. I was like, how do I even choose from all of this? There are so many choices, like with the eyelid stickers and with all of those. And it's another thing where like you can choose to go simple and that's okay. But I was like, no, I want the stickers. I want these little details. And getting to see them add on some of the final details, like they added on kind of her last bit of eyeshadow and blush, and it was so cool. It was so cool to get to see in person. They did a really lovely job with her details. Like her eyebrows, I feel like very much look like my eyebrows. They're very, I don't know, my eyebrow style. I'm very weird about my eyebrows, guys. And when I look at them though, I'm like, yes, that's how I style my eyebrows. And then also on the back of her head, they added like little Mary Love You and a cat and they're your favorite sister. And it's just, it's so pretty and it's all done with like such intent, and I love to see it. Getting to visit their studio space was also just very cool and very kind of them to let me like come and invade their space. So I got to see the other dolls that they were working on, as well as some that they just had on display. And they did a really wonderful job on her, considering I'm also the sort of person I feel like that artists can sometimes dread when it comes to commissions, where I come in and I'm like, do whatever you like or you think is right. So I didn't give them too many descriptions of like what I wanted. I was like kind of this vibe, which I know is so unhelpful. And they did a really lovely job nonetheless. They even like custom dyed her hair to try and match mine. And it matches the photo so well. On video, I feel like my camera makes my hair look just so brown. It's not. It's a purple red color. But on camera, it's like very normal brown color. I swear I'm cool, guys. I swear I dye my hair so often. But yeah, they custom made her hair color so it would match up with my photos. And they did leave it really long. They were like, we can cut it for you. And I was like, no, I do just want her to have really princessy long hair that I can like do in braids and stuff. Like, would it have been more accurate to cut it? Yes. And eventually I might cut it if I really decide I want to. But it is fun having a doll that just has like, you know, super long hair. I did specifically go out of my way to buy her some clothes that would match stuff that I knew I owned. This striped shirt was actually a complete surprise. It is almost like the same fabric as this t-shirt, which is one of my favorite t-shirts that I wear anyway. So I was like, okay, well that's perfect. And then I got her a little cardigan, and I want to add some stars to the elbows, so it's like my Taylor Swift cardigan, so she's just a little Swiftie. And I also did get her some glasses. I don't wear my glasses in my videos usually, but I am for this moment because the glare is so bad a lot of the time. I just think the glasses look so cute. Okay, guys, I'll just let her sleep. She's really tired, guys. You guys gotta lay off in the comments. Mary's working really hard. See, anytime you're mean to me, that's who you're being mean to. But she did come with a full outfit, shoes, pants, and a shirt, which I do love. I definitely am going to be like switching her out into a bunch of different outfits and stuff. The nice thing about Blythe dolls is she pretty well fits in Barbie clothes. So just saying, I am going to be on the hunt for secondhand Barbie clothes. I'm just gonna buy replicas of everything I own and dress her in the exact same outfit every day, and it'll be really normal and fun. But yeah, please welcome Mini Mary to the channel. If you're at all interested in getting one of your own, please check out your favorite sister on their socials as well as their website. They're not only incredibly talented, but genuinely so kind. It was so kind of them. I suggested it. I was like, I mean, we're kind of are in the same area. Do you think I could come by and maybe film you guys? And they let me, which was so sweet of them. They did not have to. So thank you so much for letting me kind of invade your space. And also, yeah, everybody check them out. They are genuinely just such delightful people, and they make such cool stuff. You might have also noticed, as I've been kind of like holding the doll and showing her to you and making her wave and etc., that this doll actually does have an articulated body. She has some pretty good joint articulation going on. And you might be thinking, Mary, didn't you like specifically say earlier that Blythe dolls don't have a lot of articulation? And you would be correct. Blythe dolls from the originals by Kenner in the 70s to the Neo-Blythe dolls of the 2000s all had the same minimally jointed body. But if you look at a lot of these custom dolls today, they all have jointed bodies. So why is that? Well, at some point through the history of Blythes, either through leaving molds at factories or heads being recasted, possibly legally, possibly not. Again, this is over the course of 50 years. Manufacturers in China combined Blythe doll heads with their eye mechanism with the bodies of A-Zone Pure Nemo dolls to create these new Franken-Blythes. Nobody calls them that. They've been frequently referred to as factory Blythes, Ali Blythes in reference to Alibaba or AliExpress, or TBL Blythes, Taobao Blythes, and DBS Blythes, which are in reference to a specific manufacturer. They've had a number of other names as well, but they are all basically the same thing, which is bulk-produced blank dolls, which are sold at a significantly lower price and are popularly used for customizations. Because much like Pullips, official Blythe dolls aren't cheap. Neo-Blythes from 2004 were priced at about $100, which would be $172 today, which is actually even more than Pullips were at the time. These factory dolls also have a wider range of skin colors available for them than typical officially made Blythe dolls. And I think the Blythe fandom has somewhat of a mixed reaction to it. There are some people that I'm sure kind of prefer to keep Blythes in their more original state, or to not have people take somewhat rare or hard to find dolls and completely change everything about them for the sake of a custom. And so these factory dolls offer a better option where more of those original rarer Blythe dolls can be kept in the same kind of condition for collectors while still having a space for people who want custom dolls. I've also seen collectors who don't love the custom doll situation, but their complaints most of the time is just a lot of the Blythe community spaces have kind of shifted to be more focused around the custom dolls rather than the original releases, which I can totally see why that's a bit of a bummer if you are a big fan of the original dolls that are being released by Blythe. But I also get the other perspective that with a custom doll, you're able to get kind of exactly what you want as a consumer, and you're paying an artist to create it. I do honestly think there is quite a separate audience between the people who want these official Blythe dolls and the people who want these custom dolls. Yes, they're both appreciating the aesthetics of Blythe overall, but the people who want customs probably want them to be a custom doll for a reason. They want a specific character or pop star or person or themselves to be represented by it. Whereas, of course, these original designs are just original designs. They're not going to necessarily fit the specific niche that you want. And these original designs are also expensive. So if you're going to put a lot of money towards a doll, I can see the appeal in wanting to get exactly what you want. And also, of course, with like the mini-me trend, you have to get that custom. The company's not going to make a mini you, and it's so cute. I really like it. I really like the mini-me thing. I think it's really cute. The one unfortunate thing, of course, is that these custom factory dolls, they aren't official products by Blythe. So aside from general advertising, it's not really doing a lot for Blythe as a company in order to profit off of. And again, the legality of these is in a bit of a gray area. It is totally possible that they are made in a legit way due to contracts from back in the 80s and 70s and things like that. But of course, Blythe doesn't really offer another option. They're not creating Neo kits like Pullip did. The only way to buy a Blythe doll is to buy just one of their original release designs and characters. I think it would probably be really beneficial for the brand to do their own release of something like a Mio kit or a blank doll, because there is just such a hardcore group of creators who want the ability to be creative and be an individual. Almost like with the world of ball-jointed dolls, where you can buy a doll that does have a face-up painted on, maybe even a wig, an eye kit, an outfit, or they also offer the option where it's blank and you get to be the one being creative and making those decisions, or maybe commissioning an artist. I wish that that was a bit more of a trend with both companies, though I also understand the reason why they don't, but there's a lot of nuance to this conversation. I keep like talking myself into circles trying to describe all of the like, but then factories might try and undercut them. But then of course there's also people that are always going to want to support the actual companies if you give them the option to. So there's just a lot of nuance, and there's probably not one correct answer. I just do love the world of custom Blythes that exists. And I wish that Blythe as a company, which is now ran through Good Smile, would figure out a way to kind of take advantage of the fact that there are people that really want to support the company and would like a different option in terms of buying these. Of course, the economy is the economy right now. So who knows what things are going to look like in the next few years, essentially. I've already seen and heard people talking about how the cost of factory Blythes has gone up. So we'll see what happens. For now, Blythe is winning in a sense. They're still producing dolls, and they've hopefully gained some popularity from these custom dolls, with people Googling them and wanting to learn more and maybe getting into collecting the official dolls. I think it could also be really smart for Blythe to do some re-releases of some of their classic dolls, and I do kind of hope they figure out a way to have options for artists to buy through them directly. And I hope that the growth of custom Blythes has led more people down the road of the original designs and getting interested in that. And then as for Pullips, I don't really know how their story will end. I really hope that this line of kind of throwback dolls will bring some old designs to a new audience and people will really get to enjoy them. And hopefully that will give the company some confidence to create some really cool new designs and not just rely on collaborations, but who knows? Again, it's a really rough time in the economy. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe even both brands end up fading away, but I'm curious about how you all feel about this. Does it seem like Blythe is really winning? Do you have a team you're on? Team Blythe, Team Pullip? Would you get a mini-me doll so you could dress them up and pretend that you're them and you're not employed because you're just a doll and life is really great? And I'm sure I've managed to say Pullip wrong through the video a variety of times, and I want to apologize for that. It's one of those words that my brain just like hops between different ways of saying it, and I'm sure one of you will be very kind and correct me. Thank you all so much for joining me and Mini Mary. If you want to see some behind the scenes of me prepping for this video and creating Mini Mary's kind of outfit and her little office area on my desk, I have that as a members only video, so you can join and become a member if you want to see more content like that. Thank you all again so much for joining me today. I hope that you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!